Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I want to thank you for joining me today for how to build a strong team of government contractors that can go out and win contracts. I'm excited about today's training, but I'd like to start off before we get into the formal part of the training with a tip as a thank you for those of you showing up early and on time. When you show up early and on time, it really helps with the algorithm and letting other people know that we're diving into the training. So my tip today is related to the training. I always try to keep it related, but it's I want you to understand the maturity model. So process maturity model, capability maturity model. There's a lot of different maturity models out there, but they fundamentally follow 5 steps that could be said in this one way. Step 1 is documented processes. Step 2 is followed processes. Step 3 is managed processes. Step 4 is optimized processes. And step 5 is integrated processes. And I don't want to do a long training on this, but what I want you to do is to understand those 5 steps, because across all maturity models, it's pretty much the exact same. And it's really important to understand that when we're working in our company, we tend to have initial processes, or what we call firefighter or heroics being done. When you're at stage 1, or that level 1 of the maturity model, it tends to be a lot more heroics that is moving your company forward. That doesn't build a good, strong company. That helps you get past certain areas, right? I live that sometimes myself. Even now, you sometimes have to go back to heroics. But you hear me talk about repeatable processes. When you start moving forward and you document the processes, you really start having the repeatable success that you're looking for. And as it moves forward, if I jump all the way to the end and I talk about integrated or optimized, well, now everybody and every system in your company is operating off the same process documents, procedure documents, et cetera. Think about those of you who might be ISO certified, right? It's one thing to get certified, but do you live and breathe those process maturity steps that you put in place? And so my tip for you today as it relates to this maturity model is just evaluate your company where you're at. I'm going to guide you through today just one part of the overall sales process in the federal market. And this is related to building teams. And I'm going to give you a 7-step process in a minute. But when you look at your company from that angle, you're going to have these incremental improvements. You don't need big improvements, just incremental improvements would be perfect. All right, let me turn off my little scroll bar here, share my screen, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. Okay, today we're going to be talking again about winning contracts in the federal space through strong teams. And I want to give you some guidance on how you can do that, how you can build a strong team so that you can go off and win the opportunities that you've identified and you've put into your pipeline. I just gave a tip. If you got here early, you heard it on the maturity model, right? And organizational maturity hits everything. You don't just have ISO certifications or have process maturity in one part of your business. You want it in all aspects of your business: recruiting, how you pay payroll, et cetera. All these things have process, including teaming, how you form teams, how you think about teams. That's a process. And I'm going to lay that out today. It's really important to understand that we could do this alone, this government contracting exercise that we're in when we are running our small businesses or part of a small business. We could do this alone, but it doesn't make any sense, because first off, we won't be as strong as we could. Second off, why would we want to do that when we can have strong teams that will help us take home? Here I wrote the trophy, but what I really mean is the contract. If you build strong teams, you absolutely will be able to compete more against others in the market who are going after the same opportunity. You will bring home more wins. And this idea of having more wins, it comes from building a strong team. And that building a strong team goes back to what I said. It's about documenting a process that you're going to follow over and over again. When you follow a process, you're going to have predictable, repeatable results. You'll hear me say that again in a second. One of the lines I love putting out there is that the biggest problem or biggest challenge with communication is the illusion that it took place at all. Think about the biggest challenge with communication among teammates is the illusion that it took place at all. It's not even that, we're going after it, we're on the same page. Sometimes we're not even on the same page. And so the tips I'm going to give you today are designed to help you have much better communication with your teammates, potential teammates, and people inside your company who will have something to do with the teaming exercise that's part of sales. So today we're going to cover down on those 7 steps that are part of the process for building teams. This is a 7-step process I have. I wish I could throw some words over there so you can get little hints about what's coming, but too many words to crowd in there. So it's just, here's the 7 steps and we'll get rocking and rolling. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's a process, right? And the process goes A to Z. When we follow that process, that documented process, we have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what you want for yourself. That's what I want to help you have for your company. If you haven't done so already, do me a favor, put your company name into the chat, your core competency, let us know who you are. If you're watching the replays, do that in the replay so that you can track on that. If you don't know this, we do this training, this federal sales training every weekday, including holidays. Every weekday. We've done 300 in a row over the last 15 months, and we have no plan on stopping. There's a lot that you want to learn, and there's a lot we want to teach. And so make sure you're clicking on, if you go into my profile, you can click something that'll allow you to add it to your calendar. So you've got it 12 to 12:30 East Coast time. Have coffee or lunch with me and get the training. Okay, so let's talk about step 1. Step 1, and if you want a deep dive on this, completing a requirements gap analysis, I just did a 30-minute training session yesterday. And so you can find it where I really go into how do you fill out a requirements gap analysis. But as it relates to teaming, the requirement gap analysis is your first step. The first thing you need to do is to fill out a gap analysis. And it's just a spreadsheet tool. I'll show you in a second in Excel. But it's laying out the opportunity, the PWS, the SAL in bullet form so that you can review it and score it. And I'll zoom in a minute so you can look at this stuff. It's laying out the detailed requirements. So it's not just the major task area titles, but breaking down that task area, whether they already have it in bullets or just these big paragraphs, breaking it down so you understand both the explicit and implied needs or requirements that they have, having it down there. But it also lays out this right-hand column is laying out the skills and certifications that are needed for this opportunity, right? So the first thing you do is you look at that scope and fill out the requirement gap analysis. So this is what it looks like, right? It's just Excel. And as you come in, again, the gray row here is the major task area name. I tend to put comments in so that you can see the whole reference document or paragraphs from PWS. I just put them in here. And then I break down the task. Again, you can look at yesterday's training to see that. Over here, I score it. And what I'm scoring in column D is how do I feel? How strongly are we? Is this in our sweet spot? An example, and this is example scoring. I just threw some scoring in so I can show you. It's a real opportunity. It's just fake scoring. But right here, you can see task area 2, training programs. We score down solidly. I'm like, we've done 10, 20 past performances. We're the best trainers in the whole wide world, right? So we're scoring on a 5. But if you come down and look at product knowledge management as an example, we're 1s. We don't know anything about it. And it's important to be able to understand your strengths and your weaknesses in there. Column E is where I sit there and say, these are the past performances that we have. And there's a whole reference to it. An example of some of the certifications might be just something as simple as what's the security requirement. Here it's top secret SCI. That's a huge thing. Everybody's got TSs, but getting TS SCI or getting somebody to come on is tough. And here I'm labeling that it's 3 LCATs that are needed for that. Okay, step 1 is complete this requirement gap analysis. Step 2 is to complete a teaming worksheet. And this teaming worksheet, I think I have this as a handout, by the way. If you want that, you can put that into the chat, teaming worksheet. And if I'm a little behind, by the way, in getting back to you, don't worry. I'll eventually come back and get you stuff. And feel free to ping me if I'm too slow for you. But a teaming worksheet, I've done a whole training on this as well, right? I've got a lot of trainings that are 30-minute sessions into things. And so one of them is on the teaming worksheet. But when I complete an RGA, I understand my strengths and weaknesses, right? And so here I'm coming over to the teaming worksheet. I'll show you this in a second. I'll zoom in a minute. But what I'm doing is I'm laying out, what do I need from a teaming partner? I don't want to just go out and have a random conversation. I want to go out and have a specific conversation around a specific need, right? So I need to know what that need is. If I'm looking internally to my colleagues saying, hey, I have this opportunity. I'm looking for teaming partners. Does anybody know one? Well, if I can't give them specifics of what I'm looking for, then the results I get back from them are just as bad as my requirement, right? If I send loose requirements, I'm getting loose results. But if I can send specific requirements to the people inside my company, they can go, oh, I know company A, they do exactly that. Perfect, right? The second thing is, and I'll show you this later on, it serves as a criteria for when we do have meetings with teammates and we're doing our initial evaluation on whether they'd be a good fit for us. This is telling us what a good fit is. So let me share this one. Where do I got that guy? I don't even know where it's at. There it is. So this one here, right? If you can see the big picture, let me zoom in really quick so I can show you. So here it's just describing what the teaming sheet is. Go look at the training to how to fill it out completely. But it's saying, what do I need from a teammate, right? So the first thing is, am I looking for a teammate based on the RGA? Am I looking for a teammate that's going to be a prime because I want to go after it, but I can't prime it? Or am I looking for a sub? And so here I'm just saying, replace it with prime or sub. And the same thing as you go down. Am I looking for a company that has a socioeconomic status? For example, maybe I'm already going after this as a prime and I got Booz Allen as a sub and they're taking up 40% or something. Maybe they're taking up 49%. Well, if I'm an SDVO, I might say, you know what? I need an SDVO who could bring what I need, but I can give them part of my 51% because it's an SDVO set aside. This will be similarly situated entities. So we can work together and Booz will be happy and everybody will be happy, right? So understanding that, do I need somebody with, if I need a prime, then I need the prime maybe to be on Oasis or something. Coming down, the skills and competencies, this is different from the task areas, which you'll see in a second. But here, what I'm looking for is, am I looking for somebody who's got risk management framework skills, or I'm going after a building construction project, but I need somebody who's really doubles down on flooring or something, or painting, right? Understanding what skills and competencies I need them to have to make us look good, because our goal is to have a requirement gap analysis where the score is 100% or all fives, right? The top level. So the same thing coming down on the different areas. You can go look at the teaming worksheet training, but you can see that I've identified what am I looking for. One last one I might say is like, I'm looking for somebody who's got a past performance that is in the $7 to $10 million range. Well, that's something very specific. And you want to write these things down early on, because what you don't want to do is team with friends. You want to team with businesses that are going to help you win. That's what they want because they want to win, and it's what you want. So don't team with somebody just because you like them. If you like them, figure out other opportunities you can work together. But on this opportunity, the teaming worksheet tells you we have these requirements that we need from teammates. And so you use it as a way to inform that teammate as well, potential teammates, as well as evaluate the criteria on whether they fit the mark for you. So step 3, right, is interview those potential teammates. I got an RGA done and I scored it myself for my company, so I know my strengths and weaknesses. Then I've completed a teaming worksheet, which tells me what am I looking for in a teammate. Now, step 3 is I'm going to go out and try to interview potential teammates, even the ones I know and like. I want to go in and confirm that what I think about their company hits the mark. Hey, I want to make sure that you guys can cover down on this, cover down on that. So I say use the teaming worksheet as a guide. Use it as a guide early on when you go looking for teaming partners. Remember, I said you're looking for teaming partners, let's say with risk management framework, who are SDVOs. Well, if you don't know them, one of the first places I might go is the Dynamic Small Business Search, DSBS. I can go in there, filter it, and say, only show me SDVOs and only show me those that say RMF, Risk Management Framework, in their profile, and it'll return a bunch of results. And from that, I can filter it down. But now I've got a group. But I use my teaming worksheet to know what the search criteria was on DSBS. And I can look around many different ways. That's just one example. What I try to do is build a list of 10 to 15 potential teammates to start, or at least 10 to 15 in each major category of teammate I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a large, I might just aim for 5 because really there's not that many of them. There's many, many smalls. The next thing is I just reach out to them one way or another. I'm reaching out and saying, hey, are you interested in discussing the opportunity? I might email them and say, I've got this opportunity. I don't hide the fact that I'm pursuing it. Some people do that, but it's not like anybody's really going to be able to do competitive analysis on me, except for to know I'm going after it. But as a small business, it's not a massive amount of competitive analysis somebody can do on your stuff. There's very limited information. maybe a large or something, but sometimes we overprotect information and it holds us back from forming good teams. But so what I'm doing is I'm pinging these 10 to 15 people. I'm emailing, hi, Jane. Hey, John, we're going after this opportunity. Would you be open to a 10 to 15 minute call to discuss? They're going to come back and say yes or no, right? And so then I'm going to get on a call, this fourth bullet here, I'm going to get on a 15-minute call max. I do not want it to last longer than 15 minutes. And really, it should be 5 to 10 minutes, because if it's a fit, we can follow up. But my first thing is just to find a bunch of potential teammates that are worth pursuing further. And I'll talk about step 4 in a minute about what further is. But I want to get on that call to see if their initial fit. And the way I do that is I use the Teaming Worksheet to walk through and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, right? We're going after this opportunity. We're strong in these task areas. This task area here is about Microsoft 365 and Office 365. We're not as strong there. Is that a strength of yours? Do you have past performances? I'm not trying to get them to prove it to me. Here, I'm just trying to get them to say, oh, yeah, we covered down on that. Nah, we're more of an Oracle shop. Okay, cool. And from that conversation, I move forward. I tell them in that conversation, look, my next step, I'm going to get an NDA signed so we can work together on this opportunity. And I'm going to send you what we have. It's called the requirement gap analysis. We basically took the opportunity and shredded it out into a spreadsheet. We want you to take a look at it and score it down. Let us know where you're strong, where you're weak on that. Sound good? Yes. Okay. So you're talking with them in the call. You're telling them you're going to follow up with 2 action items. So then you move forward into step 4. Step 4 is executing an NDA. You don't need an NDA before this because you're not actually talking about anything that matters. You're talking about one opportunity. But after you have a quick call, then you've confirmed a fit, then you want to execute on an NDA. And here's my advice about NDAs. People just get overly lawyered up in legal thinking about these NDAs. Really, if you can't trust somebody, you get burned once and you stop working with them. But an NDA, it doesn't really matter whether it's theirs or yours. And here's my point. If I'm going to work with Booz Allen and do a subcontract, sometimes I work with a business developer who goes, oh, yeah, send me your NDA. We'll get it signed. Other times they go, nah, we need to use ours. I don't care. An NDA is an NDA because when you read it or you have somebody on your team read it, you'll see that it's protecting both parties. That's the whole point of any good NDA. And so it doesn't matter which you use. You're just trying to execute it. Somebody taught me this a long time ago, and I loved it. The NDA is the first step that we have agreed to work together, not that phone call. When we work together to get an NDA signed, it means I'm putting my signature down and you're putting your signature down that I'm interested in working with you. Who knows where it'll go, where it'll end up, but that's the first actual step of working together. It's the first time we've documented our commitment to exploring working together, right? I love that, our commitment to exploring potentially working together. But that's a great first step. So keep that in mind. NDAs are not legal documents, they're sales documents. They're these documents that say, I want to work with you and I'm willing to protect what you're sharing with me, and I expect you to do the same. So bullet 3 here, I talk about confirm how long it usually takes. So for some of us, it might be, hey, send it over, I'll get it to you the next day, right? And for others, it takes longer. If you're teaming up with a large or a company that has more in-house people involved in the NDA process, you want to understand and respect their process by learning about it. How long does it usually take to get an NDA turned around? I know this sounds simple, right? But this is the first part of that teaming relationship where you're making it strong. You're understanding, well, what hoops do you have to go through? You know what? I wish I could just sign it and give it to you, but I actually have to send it to my boss, who approves it and then sends it to legal, and legal will then send it to your legal and then come back. I'm like, well, my legal is just me because I sign it. The point is you want to learn their process, find out how long it usually takes to turn it around. So then you're just setting expectations for you and them. There's no point in the next step, if doing the next step 2 days after a phone call, if the NDA takes 2 weeks to get turned around, right? So just find out how long it takes and get that done. So step 5 is where we're starting to get into this meat of working together. We've done exploring before this. Step 1 through 4 is basically exploring who do we need and who's out there that might want to talk to us. So step 5 is about having potential teaming partners complete that RGA we did in step 1. So the requirement gap analysis is not just for us. It is for everybody in the team. And so what I want to do is send them a completed RGA. In step 1, I completed it for myself, right? For my company, I looked at this opportunity and I shredded the PWS, meaning I pulled out all the task areas and put them into rows. I shredded the PWS and put it into the requirement gap analysis. it doesn't take a long time to get these things done, right? But if you're going after millions of dollars worth of opportunities, why wouldn't you have that clear understanding, right? So I have this populated RGA, I scored it, and I put in my past performances where I see they match up to the requirements. When I'm sending an RGA to the potential teammates, I strip out column D and column E, which are the scoring parts, where I provided my company's information. What's left is really just a regurgitation of the performance work statement, or PWS, right? It's just the task areas from the government in there in nice, clean format. I'm sending this RGA to them and I'm saying, hey, Sally, I want you to cover down on the task areas. The task areas are automatically scored. So these subtask areas are the ones I actually want you to rank yourself on. Let me just show this again really quick. So these yellow rows, these ones are the ones I want my teammate or potential teammate to score. And when they do, it automatically is averaging that score. So it's automatically giving it to me. You can see that I have many task areas, the gray row, many task areas in here. There's 11. And when I score down on all of these, I can see that I'm a 2.96 right up here. I don't know if you can see it in column D, top of column D there, 2.96, right? So I can see that score. That score, by the way, is way too low for me to prime, but these are just example scores. But I want them to score it. So I'm explaining to them, just fill out the yellow columns or yellow rows and score that in. And then as you score, what I want you to do is on column E, it has this, you can reference whether you have past performance in here. And I teach them how I do it, right? If I'm working with somebody for the first time, I show them that, look, I list out my past performances over the last 3 years. Anything beyond 3 years, I get rid of, because more often than not, the government's going to say past performance within 3 years or less. And so those past performances, then I am then aligning to each one of the rows. And so for me, if you looked at my contracts right here, the tab that says contracts, you'll see all my contracts listed out. And so what I'm saying is 2, 5, and 10 cover down on this yellow row, this subtask area. Every one of the yellow rows, I want that same thing. What we're looking for is two main things. One is that they have any past performance in there. And then the second thing is, what we're really looking for is a bunch of 5s, for example, spread throughout the all the yellow rows. What this tells me is one past performance could cover down on many task areas. That's a really good thing. I'm not going to go into that training today, but so for these guys, what I tell them is, in this initial scoring, all I'm really looking for is for you to tell me in that sheet what agency, how big, what was the period of performance. I don't need the details of the contract beyond that, right? The dollar size, the period of performance, the agency, that's all FPDS data, basically. So it's public data generally. And so I just want them to tell us which task orders or contracts are covering down on those task areas. And one of the things I said here in this bullet, even if not allowed, what I meant was, I still want my teaming partners to tell me where they cover down with past performance on a particular task area, even if I can't use their past performance in my response to the government. The reason this is important is because I'm validating, and I'm making my potential teammate validate that they really do have experience doing this and getting paid for it. And they're not just telling us that they have that experience, right? I get that often, where a lot of us see our capabilities bigger than maybe they are. And so we say we cover down on everything, but when we have to be a little bit more detailed and say, well, where have we been paid for it? It's harder to say that we're experts in all these things, right? And so by getting them to tell me their past performance, even if it's not going to be shared in the response, it's a really good thing. So the last thing I wanted to say on step 5 about having a potential partner fill out that requirement gap analysis is it is a little bit of work, right? And so this is a sign to me. I've been doing this a long time, right? 20 plus years, but even just in the last 3-4 years, just constantly active. I've had people who really are not that good of a teammate once they get into the mix, because they're disorganized, they don't have a process, they don't want to do it, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But if I can get somebody who's a potential teammate, not a guaranteed teammate, a potential teammate to fill out the RGA and to look at their past performances and align them to the task orders, if they're willing to do that when we're discussing teaming and opportunity, then that's a sign of what they're going to behave like during the proposal. They're going to help us cover down on the proposal and write the proposal. When we do data calls, I have a fairly good idea that they'll probably respond to data calls. But if they can't respond to an RGA data call at the very beginning in order to get on the team, then it's only going to get kind of worse going on. So it's a sign of what they'll be like during the proposal and frankly, even in the execution phase. So step 6 here is when you get the RGA back from one or multiple teammates, depending on how many you need, you create a combined RGA, a requirements gap analysis. And the idea is to take all these different RGAs and put them into the one spreadsheet. You don't really care about the companies at the moment. You're just trying to see where are we covering down, right? Every task area, I'm looking for a 5 on there, or what I put is your threshold. So if you're okay with pursuing an opportunity and you're only 4, that's okay. But whatever your threshold is, you want that in there. Third bullet on this is, I was saying, past performance. As you're looking at the RGAs, you want to make sure that every task area has at least 3 past performances. This is usually led by the prime, but you also want to see your subs are able to cover down at some levels, unless you're only bringing them in for their SME status. But you want to make sure that you have these past performances. This is early in the sales process in capture. This is not what's done during proposal. By the time we get to proposal and even get introduced to the assigned proposal manager, whether you have 1 or 50, doesn't matter. By the time we get to that stage, we should be giving them a lot of information, including, hey, I think these 3 past performances are probably going to be the best ones. What I'm looking for, again, is that 100% coverage on all of the requirements. And the last thing we're doing when we create that RGA and we're seeing that we're covering down 100% on the requirements is that we're confirming to ourselves that we're done the teaming formation stage of capture, that we have covered down on every area and we don't need any more teammates, right? Whether anybody else comes in because we decide to let them, that's fine. But this exercise is about making sure as early as possible that we're forming a team that covers down on the requirement 100%. So the last step in this teaming process that I talk about is executing a teaming agreement. Now that you've got the team talking, you want to lock them down, right? Some people, some organizations, especially the larger ones, they might take longer to commit, partly because it just takes longer for them to sign a TA and review it and sign it, and partly because they might just be waiting, frankly, for a better prime or a better opportunity. Well, that's fine. Let them do that. And at the same time, you go find their replacement. Because if anybody's taken a while to commit to getting a TA in place, then they're not committing to you. So why should you stop looking for another teammate to cover down? You can decide whether you have preferences, but frankly, I don't like partners who say they want to work with us and then are afraid to commit because they're kind of looking for a better option. I'm like, come on, man, go away. Okay, so here's how I want you to really think about TAs, though. This is very important because I see TAs get into all sorts of hassles when you get to this red line and signing stage. People are back and forth. And it goes back to the idea that the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it took place at all. What I want you to do is have a phone call with whoever your teaming partner point of contact is and just confirm the details of the teaming agreement. Hey, we're going to team together. Let's talk about what does that mean? Forget about writing things down yet. What do you think the work share is going to be fair? 20%, 80%. Okay, say it. What you get all the SharePoint stuff, I get all the software development stuff. Okay, we've talked about it. Then number 2, follow up with an email that says exactly that. Hey, Janie, glad I just talked to you a few minutes ago. This is what I think we talked about. I hope I captured it correctly. Please confirm that this is correct before we start the formal teaming paperwork, or let me know if I missed something, right? So you're confirming an email casually with Janie. Yeah, this is what we talked about. That way, when you move forward to the TA and you're getting involved, your lawyers or whoever, you can send them the email and say, hey, this is what we talked about. These are the details, have at it, right? And so you're moving forward. One of the things that you can see here is at every given point, you want to confirm with them that they're going to be involved in the activity. One of the things that people sometimes miss is this idea of how hard are you going to be working on the opportunity. And you want to put that in the teaming agreement. You're going to be involved in writing this. So here's what I want you to remember from today's training. You absolutely could win more contracts when you build strong teams. So take the time to build strong teams by just following the process I laid out. 7 steps to building strong team there. And at some point I'll put together a diagram and hand it out. but make sure that that process you're going to follow includes a requirements gap analysis, an RGA, and a teaming worksheet. It'll make all the conversations go so much easier, and it'll bring clarity to everything you're trying to go after. Hey, if you're interested in working with me to accelerate your business, happy to work with you. We work with companies generally that are 2 million and above because one, it's an investment on your part, and two, we're looking for companies that have kind of really established themselves selling something, and we're just kind of helping you get past any hurdle or accelerating into a new agency. So just ping me on LinkedIn if you're interested in learning more. And for everybody, remember, government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.